Hello friends, I'm Abby and today I am starting my Summerween reading vlog. It is round 2 of Summerween, hosted by Olivia Reads a Latte and Gabby Reads here on BookTube, and I am so excited because I absolutely love this readathon where you get to spend a week reading spooky, creepy reads and just living in the Halloween spirit. Of course, the readathon this year takes place over the 4th of July weekend, so I have so many summery plans, but I'm going to take you along with all of them because while I'm doing all these summery things, I'm going to be reading some spooky books. I have to say, before I start talking about the books, you may see this headphone in. It is because I film on my phone and my phone speakers are no longer working. So if you've seen my video, my July TBR, probably any videos that came out before this, I am using this microphone. It is because my speakers aren't working, so I can't record using my phone, and until I get something else, I have to use this bad boy to record the sound for these videos. So I will be wearing this. I'm sorry, but trust me, you don't want the sound that it was before. So the books that I'm planning on reading for Summerween, the book that I'm reading for Read a Book with Black and Orange on the cover is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. A book I plan to read in the dark is Fangs by Sarah Anderson. A horror novel is Bunny by Mona Awad. A paranormal book is Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. And then the first book I'm going to start with, and also the book that I'm going to bake something or create a drink that goes along with it, is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. And I'm so excited about this. I'll tell you about the books as I read them. So I'll start by telling you what The Maidens is about. Although I will be honest, I don't necessarily know. So this book, I know takes place on a college campus. These students think that their college professor is maybe a serial killer. This book is described as being a spellbinding tale of psychological suspense weaving together Greek mythology, murder, and obsession. And so I know that there is murder that happens. I know that we're going to get some of that Greek stuff that I absolutely loved from The Silent Patient, which was Alex Michaelides' first book. And I'm just really excited to get into it. So I'm about to head to the zoo, which I'm so excited for. And I'm going to read this in the car on my way there, and I will update you once I've gotten a little further in. Hi, I'm back from the zoo and I filmed absolutely nothing while I was there, so we're off to a great Summerween start. But I did, in the car to and from the zoo, read about 100 pages of The Maidens. And this book, so I need to give you like a better synopsis. This book I didn't know much about it going in, and that's kind of how I liked it, but a just general synopsis is that we are following the main character, Mariana, and she is grieving the loss of her husband, and the book starts with a prologue that I'm assuming takes place further into the book because literally the first sentence is Edward Fosca is a murderer. So like, we haven't even met Edward Fosca at the beginning of this book. We are really following Mariana as she is discovering about this murder that is happening or that has happened on the Cambridge campus. And her niece goes to Cambridge and calls her and says, I think I know who was murdered. I think I know the girl that was murdered. I feel like it's all my fault. I need you to come provide me support. And so Mariana goes to Cambridge and is she's a psychotherapist, a group therapist specifically. So she is kind of willingly giving her services and her expertise to this case but she's not necessarily hired for the case. She is just interested in discovering the truth. And so she is investigating who possibly could have killed this girl. And there are definitely lots of weird people who have popped up in the first 100 pages. Lots of red herrings, I believe, because obviously, so far there are maybe 5 people that I'm like, oh, this is a suspicious person. So clearly somebody, there are lots of red herrings. But I'm very excited. I've heard this book has a great plot twist. So I'm really just enjoying the book. It's fast-paced. There are short chapters. You know we love short chapters in our thrillers in this house. And It's great. And I found out why it's called the Maidens because there's this group of Greek students who are studying Greek on Cambridge's campus. They are, I believe, in their studying a PhD in Greek tragedy, maybe. But it's this group of women who all dress in white and they call themselves the Maidens. And they're like this super secret, like, society group that all are upper level Greek students. And that premise alone is creepy. But there's definitely a little bit of obsession coming in, a couple stalkery situations that are happening. And I'm just really enjoying kind of the different paths that it's taking me down and the different red herrings it's throwing at me because it's keeping it fast paced and definitely super interesting and making me wonder what the heck is going to happen next. Okay, friends, so I know that I haven't updated you yet on The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, but it is getting dark outside, and Brent and I are going to have a fire. We have some friends over, and I plan on reading Fangs by Sarah Anderson. I probably will not update you until I finish it because it's a graphic novel, and I tend to read those in like 30 minutes in one sitting. But I'm going to go grab it. I'm going to read it outside in the dark. It is for the prompt, read a book in the dark. So I'm hoping to accomplish that tonight since we're planning on having a fire and the weather's so beautiful. So I'm gonna go sit outside with our little patio lights, and as soon as it gets dark, I am going to read Fangs by Sarah Anderson, and I'll update you when I've finished it.
SUMMERWEEN!
Good morning and welcome to SUMMERWEEN Day 2. So as you saw last night, I read Fangs in the dark around the campfire, and it was the perfect spooky Summerween vibe that I was looking for. Now, Fangs, I don't think I told you what this is about, but this is a graphic novel that is all about kind of like a modern day look at what romance would look like between a vampire and a werewolf. And there's no plot to the story. It's basically little vignettes of what life looks like day to day for a vampire and a werewolf in love. And it was honestly just really wholesome and sweet, and it was dark and had like kind of dark comedy every once in a while, very dry comedy in it, but I chuckled. I laughed out loud multiple times. I thought it was really sweet. I really liked the characters. I thought that Elsie and Jimmy were like really cute together, and although there wasn't a story, having these fictional characters to kind of see in this romance was really sweet, and it definitely was perfect for like a Summerween vibe. So I absolutely loved this. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars, 4.5 actually. Like I said, there wasn't a plot, so it was a little bit difficult to rate. I really, really enjoyed it, and it was a great time. I finished it in like 30 minutes. It is very similar to Debbie Tung's Happily Ever After and Everything in Between, only take that style of graphic novel and make it about a vampire and a werewolf, and you've got Fangs. I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. Highly recommend this if you're looking for something quick and easy and just kind of cute and wholesome, but also that has some spooky vibes. Then I've also gotten another 100 pages into The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, and I'm really enjoying it. I don't really know what to say about it because I don't want to give any spoilers, and at this point in a thriller, like 2/3 of the way in, it's getting to the point where things are kind of like everything's building up. All of these different like potential endings are starting to like culminate into one thing. But I can say, because it's in the synopsis, that we're really getting into what is leading Mariana to believe that Edward Fosca is the murderer. And it's hard to say how this book is going to end because there's definitely a lot of evidence building up against him, and he's super creepy. Like, he has very creepy vibes. But I'm absolutely loving it. And Mariana is really getting in deep, which I'm a little concerned about because, when people really stick their nose in other people's business and like she's not technically involved. Like she keeps telling people the dean has asked her to do this and that the police chief has asked her to do this, neither of which is true. In fact, both of those people have directly told her to stop doing this. So she's really getting involved in situations that are like a little bit harrowing, but she is determined to figure out who is murdering these kids. So far, in 2/3 of the way through the book, another young girl from the college has ended up being murdered. And so now this killer is a serial killer and is doing this like super ritualistic, really creepy murdering. And Mariana's niece goes to the school. So she's determined to find who is doing it and kind of help keep her niece and of course the college as a whole safe. Just really, really enjoyable. I love Mariana as a character. I love the way she's dealing with her grief, and she's learning. This book takes place a year after her husband has passed away, and she's really learning what parts of her life are important to hold on to and which parts she is able to kind of move on from, because she's really just been drowning in grief and hiding behind it. And I think that it's showing the grief process really, really well. It goes through exactly how she has been grieving throughout the past year, and then we're now seeing her at the point where she's still coping. It's been over a year and she's still really struggling. And it's really enjoyable to see like what life, not enjoyable, that's the wrong word. It's very intriguing to see the life of somebody who's experiencing this extreme loss and extreme grief. And she's been surrounded by death her entire life. Like her mom died, but when she was really, really young, and it's just been like a culmination of a bunch of different grievances that are now culminating in this one book where we're seeing her kind of have to confront all of that past trauma. And as a psychotherapist, she's like, she knows what she's doing. Like she knows that she's doing these things, but isn't stopping them. And I think that is really interesting. So day 2 of Summerween, what are the plans? I am having like a nice relaxing morning, and then we are going to my dad's this evening to celebrate the 4th of July. And then my dad's birthday is also July 5th. So we are going to kind of celebrate his birthday a little bit while we're there as well. So I plan to make some cookies, which is going to be my bake an item that goes along with your book. I'm going to make some Greek cookies, Greek almond cookies, and I plan on making those so I can take them with me to my dad's this evening. So I will take you along today as I read, but we have 1 book down for Summerween, 4 more to go. Okay, so I have finished the Greek almond cookies. So the reason I chose to make these Greek almond cookies is that clearly The Maidens has so much Greek influence. The main character, Mariana, is born in Greece, and she kind of connects with people over Greek culture and over their shared histories with Greece. And so I really wanted to make some kind of baked good that tied into like that Greek culture. So I found these cookies. They are called amygdalotas, but they're also just called Greek almond cookies. They were so easy. I haven't tried them yet, but they smell so good. They are so good. They're soft and chewy. Like, you can just see that they're like soft and chewy on the inside. They're so good, but then they have the crunch from the almonds on the top. And then they really don't have any like flavoring in them other than the orange zest, but they have that like tiny little orange kick, and it's so good. They're not too sweet. They are really just the perfect blend of flavors. I absolutely love these. I'll definitely be making these again in the future. And I made plenty of extras to take to my dad's tonight, so hopefully everyone else loves them just as much as I do. I also made myself a coffee as part of my prompt to create a drink or bake a good that goes with your book. So I have my coffee, I have my cookie, and I am going to finish really quick. I only have like 15 pages left of The Maiden, so I'm going to go finish that really, really quick, and I will check back in with you as soon as I'm done. As promised, I'm back to talk about The Maidens because I did just finish it, which is book 2 of my SUMMERWEEN readathon. This was the book I was reading for Bake an Item or Make a Drink that goes along with your book. So I have completed this, and I will tell you right now, I'm not going to give this a rating right now because I think I need to sit on it. Here's the thing. This book has a lot of what I love in a thriller. It's fast-paced. It gives you a lot of red herrings that make you think about, like, oh, who is going to be the actual one and whether the information you're getting is true or not. I liked that it was kind of an unreliable narrator, only because we were getting only what the one narrator knew, and as you're going along, you're finding things out with the narrator and finding out that things that the narrator previously thought were true are not true. So it's just a very interesting format. And like I said, it was super fast paced. There were some major secret history vibes, as well as some kind of like typical Greek culture and like Greek mythology vibes. But I will say I did not enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed The Silent Patient, only because I partially guessed the plot twist, and I don't know how I feel about the plot twist yet. I really liked the ending, and I really liked the book. I haven't seen anybody mention this yet, but this book ties into The Silent Patient and has lots of ties to that book, and in fact includes Theo, who is the main character of The Silent Patient, as a character in this book. So we really are getting like some of the things that I really enjoy, but I think The Silent Patient had a better twist, in my opinion. I liked maybe this main character more than I liked Theo, but I think I like The Silent Patient better. However, I do really enjoy this book, but the twist kind of throws me off because, like, I can't decide if it was a good twist or if I hated it. I don't know. I guess part of the twist, but like I said, there were so many red herrings that I kind of had a whole bunch of different paths in my brain, and one of the paths was correct. So I was purposefully trying to think of what I thought was going to happen. And one of those things partially was true. Now, there was a twist within a twist that I didn't see coming, but I don't really know how to feel about it. So I will update you on my final rating at the end of this vlog when I kind of do like the wrap up, because right now, I don't know. I'm definitely leaning, it's not going to be less than a 3.5. I think I'm leaning towards a 4-star, which is great. I highly recommend everyone pick this up, but I just don't know if it's gonna be higher than a 4. So I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna sleep on it tonight, decide if the plot twist is one that I like enough to bump it up. Because in my thrillers, I look for a couple things: the pacing, the characters, the plot, and then the plot twist. And I think this had a lot going for it. I'll run it through my like rating system and see what comes up, but I won't update you on my rating until probably the end of the vlog. But I did finish my second book. That's 2 down, 3 to go. I haven't decided what I'm going to pick up next, but I can tell you I probably won't read anything else today. So I am going to sign off. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Most likely will be the next time you see an update from me. But I will check in with you tomorrow once I've picked my next book for Summerween.
Buddy, welcome to Summerween Day 1.
All right, y'all. It is day 4 of Summerween, and I didn't update you on day 3 because I didn't read anything. I did include some clips, hopefully, from when I was out celebrating all day. We had a birthday party, we had a 4th of July party, and then we had a 4th of July celebration with my husband's family. So it was really just a day full of seeing people and going out and about. And that is why today, on day 4 of Summerween, it's Monday and I'm beat. Like, I'm barely surviving. I'm so tired. I have like my massive iced coffee. I'm hoping that gets me through today. But I'm picking up my next book for Summerween today, and it is going to be Bunny by Mona Awad. So this book, I really don't know a whole lot about it. What I do know is that it is about a group of girls who call each other Bunny. And there is a girl, I believe her name is Samantha, who is in this MFA program, and she is not necessarily, she kind of makes fun of the bunnies. She's not interested in being part of them, but she gets an invitation to join them anyway. And she joins them and finds out about all of their like crazy, dark stuff going on. So I'm excited to get into it. I've heard some really great things. I've heard some very interesting things that make me very interested in picking it up. So I guess we will see how I feel. I have the audiobook for it as well, so I'm going to plug in, listen to the audiobook, read the book physically while I do, and hopefully just enjoy day 4 of Summerween because I'm just planning on relaxing and reading today. We went out for breakfast and now I'm ready to just get back into reading and reading some spooky stuff. So I will check in once I've read about 100 pages of Bunny. Okay, I am 100 pages into Bunny by Mona Awad, and this book is insane. I have no idea what I'm getting into. Oh my God. I'm so confused already. And I went through and read the the Goodreads reviews. I didn't read all of them, but I just got like a quick overview of what some of my favorites here on BookTube thought about it, and I'm going to include a screen grab of their Goodreads reviews because I think it really just describes what the vibe of this book is. Anyway, this book is really beautifully written. So I love the writing style that Mona Awad has. It's very descriptive, very overly beautiful. Like, there are things that she explains, in a paragraph. She just makes metaphors and similes that I don't normally see or that aren't like cliche, and I really, really enjoy that. This book is reading a lot like Heathers if Heathers was on like an LSD trip. Like that's kind of the vibe of this book so far. I really have no idea how to describe it to you or what to say about it at this point other than it's really weird and really good, and I'm flying through it. The chapters are fairly short, so I just want to keep reading. I don't want to put this book down. That's kind of where I'm at, and the best way I can explain it to you how I'm feeling right now is this book is insane, but I can't stop reading it, and I don't want to stop reading it. Yeah, I don't know. It just had, at 100 pages in, we just had like an insane thing happen. And the interesting thing about this book is that I love the narrator. She is like such a unique perspective. She kind of has that not like every other girl trope going on, but it's more specifically related to these very over exaggerated bunnies. Like they are a group of people who are so unusual, and the main character in this book is kind of like, y'all, like I would never I would never. But it also is kind of highlighting the isolation and loneliness that she feels as being the only girl in this MFA program who's not part of the bunnies. And so this kind of them inviting her in, she is doing it almost in like a Mean Girls way where it's like, oh, I'm gonna do it just to like appease them and like see kind of what the deal is. But then now she's like really getting sucked in, and something absolutely crazy just happened that makes me wonder what the direction of this book is even going to go in and what the point of the book is, because the main character now is like, I'm traumatized, she's traumatized, we are all traumatized, and there are other like side characters that I really were getting bits and pieces about, but not enough to make like a full opinion. So I don't know, I guess I'll have to wait and see what happens in the next 200 pages, because 100 pages in is exactly 1/3 of the way through the book. So I'm excited to see what the next third of the book brings me. Hello, happy day 5 of Summerween. I just got back from the library. I went out and I had to return a couple books, and then I had to pick up a few books that are on my reading list for next week. So you won't see them in this vlog, but I thought I would share with you what I picked up anyway, because I don't plan on vlogging the experience. But I picked up The Chosen and the Beautiful by Niveau, and this is one of my most anticipated books this year. It is a Great Gatsby retelling where Jordan is an Asian American woman and she is queer. So I'm so excited for this retelling. I think it's going to be great. I absolutely love The Great Gatsby, so I'm very excited for this. And then I also picked up a young adult fantasy called Blood Like Magic by Lizelle Sambury. And this, I believe, is a story about a girl who has to kill her first love in order to save her family. But she isn't in love right now, so she's never been in love, so she is like trying to fall in love so that she can kill this person to save her family. So I think it sounds really interesting. I think the cover is stunning, and I can't wait to read those. But what you're really here for this week is the spooky stuff. So I am 200 pages into Bunny, and I can't stop reading it, but also I have no idea what's going on. Like, I think I have the same reaction to this book that so many people have, which is, wow, what a ride. This is so interesting. I can't stop reading it. I'm so invested, and yet I really have no idea what's going on. And it has a very interesting cult dynamic. And in fact, there's a point in the book that is one of my favorite parts. It was so bone-chilling, honestly, where the perspective switches from a first-person I narrative to kind of a first-person we narrative. So instead of saying I did this, it's we did this. And it kind of focuses on like the hive mind mentality, or this kind of group psychosis mentality of when everyone's doing something that you're like, what the heck is going on? But you get sucked in to their behavior and to their decision making because of this like group mentality. Psychologically, that is so fascinating to me. And this has such Mean Girl vibes where they are like candy sweet and like saccharine sweet, but the bunnies are absolutely psychotic, and I love that for them. Like they wear like little dresses with like beheaded cats, and like it's just, they're the weirdest group of girls I've ever heard of. But I also, like, I totally relate for the main character because Samantha is like, ew, I don't want to be a part of that. And then they kind of include her, and she's the only outsider of this group, and she like gets sucked in so quickly. And it's easy to read it and be like, oh my God, I would never. But like, I'm reading it like, oh my God, I totally would. Like, if they invited me to stuff, I would absolutely be like, guess I'm a bunny now. I guess so. And that is honestly terrifying to me. And that's why I think this book is really freaking me out so much, is because I can see myself being a Samantha. But there's other elements of this that are really creepy, like memory loss. There's definitely some like supernatural or mental illness. I don't know what it is, but definitely some kind of element going on that is not in our natural world. I don't know. I'm just really fascinated by it. And the writing is stunning. It's very descriptive. The way Mona Awad writes things, it makes me feel like I'm seeing everything that's happening, but it's happening in such a descriptive and like dark and gritty way that I feel just as foggy in my head and just as like creeped out as the main character is. It's just very, very fascinating. And the writing style kind of switches when the main character switches to a we perspective. So I don't know. It's just like fantastic writing. And like I said, I don't really know how to describe what's going on or how I'm feeling necessarily, except that it's a fantastic ride and I love the writing and I really want to know what's going on. I'm not sure I'll ever find out based on the previous people's ratings, but I'm here for it. I'm here for the ride. So I plan to finish this book today. I am really just doing some chores around the house. I'll try to take you along with me, but like, I don't know that you want to see that. You're not here for some Summerween chores. Although what's scarier than having to do all of your laundry that you've been putting off for over a week? Oh my God. But I'll take you along as I go through the day. And I do plan on finishing this book. I have the audiobook, so I'll be listening to it while I do my chores. Here we go. Let's do some chores. It's lunchtime. I'm going to eat some lunch. I'm going to do my chores, listen to Bunny, and really just have a fantastic day 5 of Summerween. Okay, I finished Bunny by Mona Awad. And I think that the genius of this book is that it can be interpreted in so many different ways. I really don't know what I'm going to rate it though. It was an absolute ride. And let me just say, thank the Lord for people online who read and talk about books. The BookTube community and the Bookstagram community and the people on Goodreads who ask questions, the people on Reddit. This is a shout out to all of you because I finished this book and I sat staring at the wall for like a solid 10 minutes. Like, what did I even just read? What did I just input into my brain? What is this nonsense? I'm so confused. It was a fantastic ride, but gosh, I have no idea what's going on. But as I looked further into it, things started clicking. And as I started putting together what I think happened and what I think the point of the story is, things really just started clicking for me. And I think that I love this book. I don't know. For me, part of this book is that it is unclear at the end what is reality and what is not. Samantha is an unreliable narrator for multiple reasons. One of them being a hint at maybe a mental illness like schizophrenia. One of them being that the bunnies consistently are giving her these drugs that she doesn't know what they are. And that's part of the situation, on top of people telling her multiple times that she doesn't remember what she saw. So she'll say like, I saw this happen, and they'll be like, that's what you think you saw, but that's not what you saw. So she seems kind of like an unreliable narrator. And as the book goes on, things just get crazier and crazier. So you have to kind of interpret what you think is real and what you think is not. And for me, I read this very literally. I was fully on board for paranormal horror. But then I love that at the end, it's kind of open to your own interpretation. Is it actually paranormal? Is it a mental illness like schizophrenia that is causing hallucinations? Is it just a really active imagination? Is the entire book from a certain point forward just Samantha's thesis for this MFA writing program? Because the college that they're at, they are in an MFA writing program, and they're talking about digging deep and getting gritty and dirty, like tapping the wound is what they call it. So like diving into the dark depths of yourself to write from the heart and to write something that matters. And so some people see this as kind of everything from a certain point on is Samantha's thesis for her MFA program. And I think that's a really fascinating concept. Overall, I just love this book. I think no matter how you interpret it, it is a ride. And I don't know what else to say about it, except I'm so happy that this was suggested by so many people because I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it. Horror is a little back and forth for me, especially ambiguous horror, where it doesn't have a clear ending. But I think because this book can so easily be interpreted in multiple different directions, it does not bother me that I was not given every answer that I wanted. So, all in all, I think that this book is going to be rated really highly. I'm going to stick with my original plan of not telling you ratings until the end, but I can say wholeheartedly that I thoroughly enjoyed this book. And this just makes me even more excited for when Mona Awad's next book comes out, because that one is about a Shakespeare professor, or like a theater professor, who is putting on a Shakespeare production of All's Well That Ends Well, and it turns into a Macbeth production, and there's kind of an addiction element to that as well. And I think that the addiction element in this, the discussion of the cult-like behavior of this group of girls, it felt very much to me like when you're trying to make friends with a group of girls in school. And on top of that, kind of the way that universities or institutions of learning can sometimes ask you to do things that are just so outside of your comfort zone, and they will push you and push you and push you to the point where you break. And at this age, where you're in your MFA program, early 20s, I think Samantha's 25, that is typically when pretty severe mental disorders start coming to the surface. You maybe will have had symptoms growing up, but that's typically when they're triggered. And so I thought that was very fascinating in this, and I think it's going to be a very similar vibe in All's Well. So I really can't wait for that to come out now. I'm bumping it up on my priority list because Mona Awad's writing is stunning, and I kind of marked this little spot just to give you an example of what kind of writing I'm talking about. So she says, "Today was so wonderful. Probably this is heaven. The night is a waterfall of music and lights. The night is a rabbit hole into which we enter, hand in mesh hand. The night is a dark earth I could dig my hands into forever. The night becomes a page of literature that I would, at 16, press against my heart." That kind of descriptive, overly dramatic writing was just stunning to me. Highly recommend this. I don't know what book I'm going to pick up next, so I'm going to wait until I do pick that book up to update you next. Good morning. Happy day 6 of Summerween, and boy, what a day. I got up, I went for a walk. I have lots of chores to do today, and I'm also going out to get coffee with a friend. So I've definitely been up and moving, and that has given me plenty of time to read 100 pages of Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is kind of a parody horror novel about IKEA. It takes place in this fictional store called Orsk, but it does take place in Ohio, which I think is really exciting. I always love when books are set in Ohio. And the last book I want to read for Summerween is also kind of set in Ohio. But anyway, this book features this group of people who are investigating some weird stuff happening in their store overnight. And part of it is them trying to save themselves, and part is them trying to save the store. So I'm 100 pages in. Nothing really like scary has happened. There's a couple like things that were very vivid in my imagery. Like Grady Hendrix does a really good job of describing like creepy, like visual horror, maybe potentially ghosts, or at least like creepy like things around you. And I'm just really enjoying that aspect of it. Now let's prop it up. Oh, perfect. You can see just the little top. I'm enjoying the aspect of like visual imagery that Grady Hendrix adds to the books, but it's not super scary yet. It's actually kind of funny in my opinion, which I think is part of the point. It's really a big commentary on like commercialism and these big corporate stores. And of course, it's being compared to IKEA a couple times in the story. They're like, we are not IKEA, but it's definitely like a parody on IKEA and stores like that. And this gang of characters is just really a Scooby-Doo gang. Like it's all very different people. So we have Amy, who's our main character, and she is pretty cynical. She's very disbelieving of ghosts and paranormal stuff, and she's really just biding her time until she can get out of retail. Like she does not want to do this forever. And then you have Basil, and Basil is the store manager. He's very passionate about Orsk. He feels like Orsk gave him a lot of opportunities that he wouldn't have had otherwise, and so he's very passionate about saving the store. Then you have Matt and Trinity. And Matt and Trinity are at the store overnight to try to hunt for ghosts because they believe that there is a paranormal situation going on. And so they are like filming their own ghost hunter show, but they didn't get permission to do so. So they are like definitely trespassing. And it's really funny because they're so passionate about filming and setting up these EKG things. And they are like full ghost hunters in this Orsk store. And then you have Ruth Ann, who is this like sweet Southern Ohio lady. She's a little bit of a Southern accent on the audiobook, which is really fun. And she's an older woman. She lives alone and she really needs this job. Like this job is everything to her. She's very sweet. She's very dedicated. And that's why she agreed to do this overnight shift, is because she wants to protect the store and protect her job. And so all of them are really here for like kind of different reasons, but I really love them as a group. They all have like a really funny, interesting dynamic. So the book so far is going really, really quickly. I read through 100 pages super fast. This design of this book is so interesting and it's unlike anything I've read before. So each chapter is kind of this like introduction of a piece of furniture in the store. And the furniture kind of goes along with where they're at in the store, based on like the showroom map that they gave you at the very beginning. So they're kind of going through this storeroom or the showroom and trying to find, they think a man might be in the building. And so they are kind of going through and trying to find where this man might be, who he might be, what he's doing in this building. I'm enjoying it so far. I am going to probably read a little bit more of this today. And to be honest, 100 pages in, there's only like 240 pages in this. So the next time I update you about this, I will likely have finished Horror Store. And so I'll give you kind of my final wrap up about that. And I am reading this, I forgot to tell you, I'm reading Horror Store for the prompt to read a paranormal book. And I read Bunny as my read a horror novel. So I am down to my last two. I have Horror Store and then I have Survive the Night by Riley Sager that I think I might casually start today. That is going to be for the prompt to read a book with Halloween colors on the cover. So let's get started on day 6 of Summerween. Okay, so at the beginning of each chapter, there are these graphics where it shows like an Orsk item of furniture. But as the story goes on, they start turning into these like contraptions, like these tortured things. Oh my God, it's so creepy. It's probably the freakiest part of this book is these torture devices that are just like casually mentioned. That's the epilogue, but like, and it's just like, submit to the panic, fear, and helplessness of drowning with the hope of death a distant dream. Creepy. Okay, I officially finished my 4th book for Summerween, and that is Horror Store. And this was creepier, I guess, than I expected. It definitely had more gore and more like almost Saw-like horror references. Like, it was definitely very gory in like a shock value type way. And when you think of like a horror novel, this is kind of the vibe that you're thinking of, like people gouging their eyes out. And Grady Hendrix does a very great job describing scenes with rats. In both books that I've read from him, there are very graphic scenes depicting rats, and it's definitely very gross and sickening. So that was very interesting. I think the playing with the concept in this book and the like mixed media style of the book was really interesting and definitely added an element to the book, in my opinion. I don't think that this is one that is going to stick with me forever. I gave his last book 5 stars. It's definitely one that the story sticks with me because the story itself I connected really well with, and it was more of a story that had a social aspect. And while this does like a business level horror and the way that especially corporations in America function and the way they place an emphasis on working until you die, I think that was really scary. But the actual horror in this, I think partially because it was shorter and partially because it was more of like a campy satirical piece than like a full novel, I just didn't connect with it as much. However, I think it does have some really great horror elements, and like I said, I think the mixed media and the playing with the format of a book was really interesting and made it worth the read. So I do recommend you pick this up if you're looking for something quick and very graphic. There are definitely scenes that will stick with me. So if you're looking for that, I recommend you pick it up. And now I have my last book, which is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. And I'm going to read that. I focused mostly on this today. I listened to the audiobook while I was driving to and from the coffee shop where I met my friend Lydia. And I'm now going to spend the afternoon doing some more chores. Brett and I are going to take a trip to IKEA. We need some stuff for the house, and I thought that would be a fun trip to go on, especially after reading this book that is very IKEA inspired. So I'll take you along with me for my IKEA trip, and I will check in once I've read a little bit more of Survive the Night. Good morning. It is day 7 of Summerween, so it is the last day. And my plan for today is to sit and finish Survive the Night by Riley Sager. And then we're going to go play a murder mystery game with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. And I'm so excited to kind of finish Summerween in a spooky way. But I am 100 pages into Survive the Night. And during this readathon, Gabby Reads and Katie Colson have both read this and said that it was disappointing to them. So I'm trying to keep my mind open because in the first 100 pages, I'm actually really enjoying it. I personally don't mind a unreliable narrator trope. So the girl in this, Charlie, she is going home from college right before Thanksgiving break because she just needs a break. She needs to go back home. She needs to get away from her college campus because the campus killer has murdered her roommate and best friend. And Charlie kind of blames herself for this. She puts her information up on a ride board, like a ride sharing board, because this book takes place in the 90s. So it's definitely like before technology times, which I think is really interesting and adds an interesting element. But she puts her information on this ride board and she meets this man, Josh, who says, oh, I'm actually going to Ohio. He says he's going to Akron. She's going to Youngstown. And he says, I can drive you. And they leave the next night, and as she's in the car with him, she starts to think that he might be the campus killer. There are just some things coming up that seem really suspicious. And I really love this, like, taking place in one night story where you don't know really what's going on, and the narrator is a little bit unreliable. So it makes it more interesting because Charlie has this mental disorder, basically. It's not specified what it is, but she sees movies in her mind. She's a film major. She's super into movies and films, and the book is kind of told in this film-like way where it's like interior shot, Grand Am, nighttime, like just very cinematic, which I'm really enjoying. And Charlie sees movies in her mind. So she takes what is happening in real life and kind of puts this like cinematic twist on it. She literally sees these things. And so it makes it hard for her to figure out what is real, what is in her mind. She saw a therapist who gave her these pills that she's supposed to be taking. And at the beginning of the book, you find out that she hasn't been taking them for a few days. She wants to continue this like movie-like thing in her mind. She doesn't want to stop seeing them, but you know that she's supposed to be taking the pills and that she hasn't been. So it makes her pretty unreliable as a narrator because you don't really know what's real. And I actually really like that trope. I know it's a little bit overused, but I think Riley Sager does a really good job of incorporating different classic tropes in each of his books. So this one definitely has the unreliable narrator trope. Slowly in the past 100 pages, we've been finding out that like there's some suspicious stuff going on. Josh might not be who he says he is, and it's very suspicious. But I love that they're like trapped together in this car. I love seeing Charlie's like cinematic view on everything and seeing like the way that they communicate with each other. I actually think it's fairly fast paced. At this point now, the first 100 pages, I think we're pretty fast paced. And I'm really enjoying the kind of creepy, ominous, like driving through the middle of the night with somebody who might be a killer. And I know a lot of people have the complaint that no girl would do this. Like nobody would be in this situation and like go along with this. And like maybe that will be more extreme in the next 200 pages. But in my opinion, especially in the 90s, this was normal. Like it was back before we had like My Favorite Murder and like all these true crime shows that like told us as women what to do to be safe. Like she definitely has ideas and she's like, she remembers them from this like Take Back the Night poster. So she's trying to be safe, but it's back before nobody trusted any strangers. Like people hitchhiked all the time in the 90s, which is why I think it's genius that it's set in 1991. In addition to this, there's no technology, which I think makes it extra scary because she doesn't have a cell phone. She doesn't have any way to contact anybody or call the police. It's just very spooky. I just sat outside and enjoyed some reading time, and I got through 100 more pages of Survive the Night. And I did get to my first point in the book where I was like, girl, even you know that's a bad decision. And like Riley Sager tried to explain, and like the character tried to explain why she's making these like bad decisions. But I'm still like, girl, girl, don't be doing this. But I disagree with people who say that it's boring. And like maybe the next 100 pages will be boring, but I can't see it being that way because I think it's super fast paced. It's going in like intense directions and it's taking twists that I didn't expect. I don't even know. It's like it defied what I thought was going to happen and now has like taken a turn that I'm like, okay, so it's like a completely different story. Like we are following like a crazy storyline. And the main character, Charlie, so she basically, from what I can gather, has like a dissociative mental disorder. She completely detaches from reality. But it's interesting because she now is having, they happen more when she's stressed or scared or anything like that. So of course in this tense situation, she's having more of them. And once she snaps out of them, she realizes that it wasn't real. Until she snaps out of it, she doesn't know what's going on, and they could last a long time. So she's in this constant state of, is this really happening? Is it not really happening? She's being gaslighted, and it's just super intense. But on top of that, we also are getting perspectives from a couple different people that are like popping in every once in a while. And I love that. I love this like outside perspective that we get. There are a lot of things happening right now at 2/3 of the way in. So I have 1/3 of the book left. I am going to finish it today, 100%, and I can't wait to. All right, friends, let's check in about Survive the Night by Riley Sager, because I did finish this in time for the end of Summerween. So this book, I actually really enjoyed it, which I think is maybe a controversial opinion because a lot of people really hate the main character and think that she makes horrible choices. But I think that if you suspend your disbelief a little bit and remember that this book was set in the 90s and not in present day, absolutely present day, it seems like she's making horrible decisions. But in the 90s, people just didn't, they were more trustworthy. Like 80s and 90s was prime serial killer time because people made choices like this. And I actually really enjoyed it. I think that it showed a really great perspective of grief and of mourning and kind of the choices we make when we're in that weird headspace of like coping with some of the choices we've made and with our past traumas. I think that it was a really interesting look at that. And ultimately, I thought that the twists were great. I saw one of the big twists coming, but one of them absolutely shocked me. I was blown away by the like way that the turn that this book took, because by the end I was like, what? And then there's like a little epilogue, and that epilogue is everything. Like, it's everything. I absolutely loved it. I'm going to give this book 4 stars. It is now my second favorite Riley Sager book. So Home Before Dark still can't be topped for me, but Survive the Night I actually really love. So let's go through the books that I read for Summerween, what I rated them, and what prompt I read them for. So first, I finished Fangs by Sarah Anderson. I read it for the prompt Read a Book in the Dark, and I think I'm going to give this 4 stars. It was really enjoyable. I really, really loved it. It's not going to be like a new all-time favorite for me, but I think that it was fantastic. Next, I read The Maidens, and I read this for the prompt to bake something or make a drink that goes with your spooky book, and I baked some Greek cookies, and I ended up giving The Maidens 4 stars. I kind of leaned maybe towards a 4.5, but I really struggled with whether a plot twist was a good one just because I didn't see it coming. And I actually talked to my husband about this, and he gave me some of the best description of a good plot twist, because he said that for him, a plot twist has to be a little bit unexpected, but it has to fit into what you previously know about the characters. And I think that that's maybe where this plot twist lost me, is that it took what I inherently believed about a character and flipped it on its head, which lots of people love. And I think for me, it just wasn't my favorite use of a plot twist. However, I still flew through the book and really, really enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it 4 stars. Next, I read Bunny by Mona Awad, and I really waffled back and forth on what rating to give this. But because it is keeping me up at night and I can't stop thinking about it, I'm giving it 5 stars. I really don't know how to explain why I like it so much, but I do, and I am really invested in this story. So I'm gonna give it 5 stars, and I read this for the prompt to read a horror novel. Then I read Horror Store by Grady Hendrix, and I read this for the prompt to read a paranormal book, because this book is definitely paranormal, and I gave this 3 stars. It was fun, it was filled with gore and horror-ness, but it's not one that I think is going to stick with me long term, so I'm going to go with 3 stars. And then last, as you know, Survive the Night by Riley Sager, which I'm going to give 4 stars, and I read for the prompt to read a book with Halloween colors because it has orange and black on the cover. So I completed all 5 prompts by reading these 5 books. I'm so excited that I participated in Summerween and that I was able to read so much because I love spooky books. I don't often pick them up on my own. Sometimes I am like more pulled toward fantasy and romance. So I love an excuse to pick up a spooky book. This was just such a successful Summerween. So that'll be all for me today, friends. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this video with anyone you think would enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Bye, friends!